Good morning, everyone. Today I want to talk a little bit about switching hands and then covering concealment and how they work together. I have my Glock 19 that I'm going to be using. It's been unloaded. I've already checked it, but yeah. Anyway, so what we're going to do with here, I'm in my basement, as you can tell by the fabulous decor. And basements are a really good place for doing any kind of dry fire practice or anything like that. If you have a blue gun, that's even better. I think every home should have a blue gun or a dummy gun that can be used. But in lieu of that, make sure that your firearm is completely unloaded, completely safe, and get in a safe place, just in case. Our safe place is our basement. This is where we do all of our dry fire practice, just in case we should have any kind of an accident. This is a pretty safe place. Cinder block walls, everything that's any kind of vitality is above ground. We're underground, so it's a really good place to do any kind of dry fire practice or anything like that. So we're going to start with switching hands. Switching hands is a pretty vital step once you get past your basic shooting. Especially if you're going to be doing any kind of elaborate work, maybe doing any kind of room clearing or anything like that, you're going to see how switching hands is going to be important, and then being able to actually shoot, non-dominant hand, non-dominant eye even. And, but of course, you gotta kind of crawl before you can walk, so you gotta start with being able to switch hands. Now, I've seen a lot of people do a lot of different things when it comes to switching hands, just basically just dropping the gun from one hand to the other, even completely changing grips, all sorts of weird stuff. There are kind of inefficient ways to do it, though. If you go to any kind of firearms competitions or anything like IDPA, you'll see a lot of interesting ways that people will switch hands. Now, the way that I have learned it, and everything that I've learned that you're going to see basically in this video, is from the Tactical Defense Institute. And if you haven't gone there before, I strongly recommend that you do. They have some very, very, very efficient and good ways to do everything when it comes to handling a firearm. And then I'll show you why it's important to have efficiency in just a second. So I'm a right-handed shooter. So here I am, right-handed, and I'm right-eye dominant, which means looking at the camera, if I were to line up my sights, you would see I'm holding the firearm in my right hand, and it's lined up right over top of my right eye. If I were to pull the trigger right now, I would put a nice hole in my camera if the firearm were loaded, of course. Now, if I needed to switch, I could switch very, very quickly, just in not even moving the firearm hardly at all. And the way that I learned how to do this is what's called basically swiping the gun into the other hand, which is, here I have it in a right-handed grip. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to swipe it into my left hand. Now, it's important in that your offhand is very used to gripping with all the fingers. So what can often happen is while people are trying to put that firearm into their offhand does what it normally does, and then you end up with your finger in the trigger guard prematurely. So keeping that trigger finger up and out of the way, you'd want to swipe it into the left hand. And then to do the opposite, if I'm coming back to my right hand, I want to swipe it in and keep that trigger finger up and out of the way. So from the front, going from a two-handed shooter group with the, your thumbs forward grip like this, I am going to swipe it. You see how my trigger finger came up there? I'm going to swipe it and get that same thumbs forward grip on the other hand. And then going back the other way, I'm going to swipe it, get that trigger finger up, swipe it, get that trigger finger up, swipe it, get that trigger finger up, and just keep doing that back and forth. And keep doing it until it's something that's very comfortable. I'm still using my dominant eye, my right eye, and once you get comfortable doing the swipe from side to side, you might even want to try doing eye dominance. And the easiest way to switch your dominance is just to close your dominant eye. So if I'm going to be left-handed, I'm just going to close that left eye and get a good sight picture, or my right eye, and get a good sight picture with my left eye. I'm going to switch, but since I don't have to worry about it, I'm just going to leave my right eye open. I'm going to switch, get that left eye, switch, get the right eye, switch, get the left eye. And so now that you've seen, you know, switching sides with the firearm, switching dominant eyes with the firearm, I'm going to show you why that might be important. We are going to kind of go over a little bit of cover and concealment. And how I practice cover and concealment is with a pillowcase on a hanger that I can just hang from the ceiling. So that way, and you can see how this might work as far as coming around cover and coming around concealment and kind of keeping that peak around there without. And a really good way to practice this to see how well you're doing it is to set up a sort of a camera so that you can kind of peek out of the side and see how much of your body is being shown as you're coming around the corner. So I'm going to hang this up. See how much space? Okay, so this is my cover and concealment. And now I've got my gun, and straighten out there. And we're going to see how this works from going from side to side, switching the gun from right to left, and peeking around either cover or concealment. Now I'm stepping back from my cover. I know you can't really see me that well. I'm stepping back from my cover because that's going to give me a little bit of advantage. If I'm up here really close, I'm not going to be able to see without sticking my head out. If I'm back here a little bit more, I can see a little more without exposing and also worrying about ricochets and things like that. So I'm going to be stepping back from my cover or concealment. Granted, this is the left side and I still have my firearm on my right side, but we're going to start on the other side. There's my right side. Here's my firearm as you can see it. Hello! And you can see just about my muzzle and maybe a little bit of my hair peeking out here. But I can see the camera. And now coming around the other side, I'm going to sweep to the left side. I'm going to get left eye dominant. And I'm going to come over here. And again, here's my firearm. Here I am. But you really can't see any of my head. Here I am. So now, to show you why this is important, and I'm left-handed here, so if I were to switch to my right hand and try my right eye, in order to get a good sight picture, I gotta get my entire head, my entire forehead out here. So this is why I want to switch from my right hand to my left hand. I got a lot less exposed when I switch and do left hand, left eye dominant than if I were to stay right-handed and try right eye dominant. You see how much difference that is? That's that much of my head versus that much of my head. If I'm this close, and I'm getting closer to the my cover and concealment there. If I back up, you see even less and less and less of me. So that's a really good way to practice your cover and concealment and your right versus left eye down, or right versus left switching. And you can go back and forth behind that sheet or behind that piece of whatever you makeshift for cover and concealment, and go back and forth and test yourself. And if you have a camera of some sort, you know, get behind that sheet or whatever, go from side to side and see how much of your own person you can see and how well you're using cover and concealment.